Hi guys, welcome back. I'm sorry for the interruption in the previous live broadcast. I hope you are able to see me now, and we are audible and visible also to all of you. Yeah, so I think we are fine now. So we'll just continue with the discussion of this question. So ये वाला question है, first question. We are doing this cat paper series, discussing the cat paper series, and I want to do this. These questions to show you actually how the toppers think inside the exam. So I will restart the solution of this question because the last time the stream went offline. So I want this to be available in one video for people who watch later. And I'll just start with the basic reactions to this question. So this is the first question in the CAT 2021 slot 3 paper. A park shaped like a rhombus has an area of 96 square meter. This is the first thing that you read in this question. The first question literally in the paper, in the slot 3. So a park shaped like a rhombus has an area of 96 square meters. So rhombus basically is all sides equal. All squares are rhombuses, but all rhombuses are not squares. So there's nothing telling us that this is a square rhombus. So we'll just take a normal rhombus. And what it's telling me is that the area of this rhombus is 96 square meters. So when I get the area of the rhombus information, my first reaction for the area of the rhombus should be that the formula for the area of a rhombus is half d1 into d2, the product of the diagonals divided by 2. And since it's product of diagonals divided by 2, I know that the product of the diagonals is 192. This is my first reaction in this problem. And you will see most of these questions I will show you in CAT, and we'll keep going with hi, good evening Dhananjay, and good evening everybody else who's inside. Most of these questions I will show you across years in the CAT. You will see that these are all solvable in barely 3 or 4 steps, and if you do those 3-4 steps efficiently, and you have created your thinking correctly on those 3-4 steps, you are kind of sorted for this section. Right, so we have the first reaction there, and after that the question continues. If 40 meters of fencing is needed to enclose the park. Now this itself is a trigger here. We should not read ahead. The question tells me 40 meters of fencing is needed to enclose the park. Now what this means is that if 40 meters of fencing is required to enclose the park, the fencing required to enclose the park is basically the perimeter of the park, any park. So since this is a rhombus, all sides equal, we realize that the sides of the rhombus are 10, 10, 10, 10. And you know, on a rhombus, you have 2 diagonals. One is the long diagonal and the other is the short diagonal. You have 2 diagonals on every rhombus. One is the long diagonal, the other is the short diagonal. Right? And we know that d1, d2 is 192. So the first reaction at this point, when you get this 10, 10, 10, 10, and you're already thinking about this fact that the product of the diagonal is 192. So you're already thinking about this fact that we are talking about 2 numbers which are factors of 192. So if I start thinking about the factors of 192, the first pair of factors of 192 is 1, 192, then 2, 96, 3, 64, and so on. And we'll quickly reject all this. The reason for the rejection of all this is it can't happen that the diagonal, either the long diagonal or the short diagonal, it's not possible that either the long diagonal or the short diagonal of the rhombus is less than 10. Right? It's always both the diagonals obviously will be more than 10. So if I start looking for factors above 10, below the square root and above 10, you will start realizing that 12 and 16 is the only possible pair of diagonals you have, which will have this property that they'll give you a area of 96, and the product of the diagonal is 192. So that's what you get at this point. And the question is saying here, the cost in INR of laying electric wires along the 2 diagonals at the rate of 125 per meter. What is the cost in Indian national rupees of laying electric wires along the 2 diagonals? So the 2 diagonals, one is 12 and the other 16. So 2 diagonals have a total length of 28 meters. and the price per meter is 125 for laying an electric wire. So 28 into 125, 3500 is the answer. And you get this answer, if you're thinking this way, you get this answer before you finish reading the question. Right? Of course, in case you miss one of the triggers at the start of the problem, you have this from the last, when they tell you that we want to find out the total cost. अगर start के triggers miss कर गए तो और read करते हुए यहाँ पहुँच गए, तो you have this from the question that you since the cost, what the question is asking is the cost of laying electric wires along the screw diagonals, and the rate per meter is given. So you know that you have to find the length of the diagonals. So in case you miss the triggers from here, here what I did was I just went to the triggers and reacted, and by the time I reached the end of the problem, I knew what I had the information to solve the problem. In case I miss it, I can reverse flowchart from this last sentence, I can get that I want the answer of d1 into d1 plus d2 into 125. So that tells you that I want to use the information given before this to find the values of d1, d2. And then you can start thinking the thought process that I showed you here to think about 1216 there. Right? Let's look at the next question now. This is an interesting question again. I hope you can read this. I'll just read this out for you. The question says, hi, good evening Gyan, good evening Dhananjay, good evening everybody else. Do spread the word around about the channel. A lot of things lined up for all of you as we go ahead. The question says that, are you able to read this properly? All of you? Hi, good evening Adarsh, welcome to the session. Right, I hope you can read this properly. The question says, a tea shop offers tea in cups of 3 different sizes. So let me just expand this a little bit, and I'll keep shifting this. The key points, I'll bring it into the focus as we keep going here. So a tea shop offers tea in cups of 3 different sizes. Okay. आगे क्या बोल रहा है? The product of the prices in INR of the 3 different sizes is equal to 800. The product of, now you need to understand what this language is saying. The prices in INR of the 3 different sizes is equal to, I think you can't see that last part, so I'll just bring that part here, is equal to 800. So this is a point where you have a reaction to the problem. That there are 3 prices, right? So you have a reaction point at this point. Yeah, viewer, welcome to the session. Welcome everybody else to the session, and I hope more people can join in as I continue doing this more often. So what's happening here in this problem is that they have told me that I've got 3 prices: P1, P2, P3. So introducing 3 variables here. You should be able to think like that inside the problem. What they are doing is they are introducing 3 variables, and what they are saying is the product of the prices of the 3 is 800. Okay, so this is the instruction from this side. We form that equation on the other slide, and we keep going ahead from this point. Right? So आगे क्या बोल रहा है question? आगे क्या बोल रहा है? The prices of what? The prices of the smallest size and the medium size. Let me just try to bring this down into one picture for you. I guess you guys can see this. The prices of the smallest size and the medium size are in the ratio 2:5. Now they have introduced 3 variables, and one of the things that you need to do in maths problems is to have a grip of the variables that are happening. Specifically those of you who are weak at maths, you need to have a grip of the variables that are happening. So the prices of the smallest size and the medium size, the ratio 2:5. So what that means is, if I think of this price as 2x, let's say I've defined my 3 prices for small, medium and large size. And if I think of this as 2x, this price is 5x, and P3 we can think of as y. So obviously once I realize these 3 prices are 2x, 5x and y, I'm not going to leave this equation like this. The obvious algebraic reaction to do is the product of this, and when you do the product of this, you get 10x square y. 10x square y is equal to 800, which then refines my situation into x square y as 80. Right now, if I'm assuming that all the 3 prices are again integers, because it's going to be very difficult for, even problem setter point of view, it's going to be difficult, or they normally, most of the times they are dealing with integers. Okay. See, Gyan is asking this question, how do you improve the reaction after reading the first time? That's the whole point. You don't have to improve the reaction after reading the first time. You have to improve your reaction during your first time. So that's my take on that question from Gyan. So I have not finished reading the question. I have not read the next sentences at this point, and I've just come up with this reaction, and that x square y is 80. And obviously now, and you will see that maths questions in CAT are not always solved through algebra. You have to actually mix a little bit of numerical thinking with the algebra. So if I'm thinking integers, I can think of 1 square into 80. I can think of 1 square into 80. I can think of 2 square into 20. I can't think of 3 square. Of course, it can happen that the price of the value of x square is 3 square and y is 80 by 9. So that can happen, but it's unlikely. So my other values for x square y, 2 square, 3 square doesn't work, 4 square into 5 does work, and then we have 5 square into 3.2, not something that I want to check right now. 6 square again into a decimal does not check out. 7 square into something like 49 by 80 by 49 does not work out much. So if the problem forces me, then I'll go into those fractions, but my first focus is to look at these integers, right? Of course 8 square, 9 square के बाद तो work नहीं करेगा. It will be limited at 8 square, the value of x. And when I look at this again, before I move on, I have to look at the analysis of the situation. The situation, please remember, was that the price of the 2 small and medium size cups was 2x and 5x, and the price of the third large size cup was y. So if I'm talking about x is 4, for example, I have a ridiculous situation here. The ridiculous situation here is that the price of the small cup is 8 rupees, the price of the medium cup is 20 rupees, and the price of the large cup is 5 rupees. Now that's unlikely to happen, right? Of course, some crazy shopkeeper can do that, but I'm not going to check this value. 8, 20 and 5, this is not a value I'm checking to start with, right? 2, 5 and 80 can happen, but this looks more likely. If x is 2, if x is 2, 2x is 4 rupees, 5x is 10 rupees, and y is what? Yeah, y is 20 rupees from here. And the product of P1 into P2 into P3 does turn out to be 800 here, right? So this is a value which we are ignoring because it will have to be a really crazy shopkeeper to be selling the large cup for a smaller price. Can happen, mathematically it's possible, but logically shayad nahi hai. So we are just looking at these numbers and we keep going ahead. The question setter has to give me enough equations, and you have to understand one thing. Yahan pe he's just given me one equation till now. P1, P2, P3, 3 variables, one equation, P1 into P2 into P3 is equal to 800. And the second thing you realize is also connected P1 and P2 through a ratio, which means now we are down to 2 variables and 1 equation. So if this is a definitive, now some cat has this tendency of, and people watching this for other aptitude tests, you need to realize that there's this tendency of having these situations in cat where they give you 2 equations, 3 unknowns, 1 equation, 2 unknowns. It's a very, very common structure in these aptitude exams, especially cat leads it and other exams follow that. So when there's more equations, less equations and more unknowns, it normally leads to a multiple possibility situation, right? So right now we are at 1 equation, 2 unknowns. We are still reading the problem, right? So this is during the first reading of the problem, and all these things should come into your mind, and you have to train your mind like this to actually start thinking like this. And then the next sentence, if the shop owner decides to increase the prices of the smallest and the medium ones by INR rupees 6. So what is he doing? He's raising the prices of the smallest and the medium ones by 6 rupees. That means he's making 2x plus 6, 5x plus 6. Now think, if those thinking algebra will start thinking 2x plus 6 into 5x plus 6, keeping the price of the largest constant unchanged. So those thinking algebra will start thinking 2x plus 6, 5x plus 6 into y. The largest one is constant. The product then changes to 3200. This is 3200. You have a first equation of x square y is equal to 80. So if you have, technically you have 2 equations, 2 unknowns, so you can solve it. But if you are thinking the way I have thought here and brought in the numerical thinking in between the algebra, which you should do, it pays you off very heavily in aptitude exams. Agar ye kiya hai tumne, if you have done this, and those of you wanting Hindi, please wait for the same video on the Hindi channel. We've got the Arun Sharma Academy channel on YouTube. Just pe main iska, I'll bring a complete Hindi solution to this because we have planned that whole YouTube channel to be a Hindi channel there. So what if I'm thinking on this thing? I have possible numbers. Of course, I've got 1, 1 with x is 1 in this solution. I've got 2, 5 and y is 80, right? But if I'm thinking about, okay, what does he do? What is the problem telling me? The problem is telling me that he raises the price of the small and medium cups by 6 rupees. So if I try to apply this to the most likely numbers we have, and this is actual cat numbers, I have not created these numbers, and this is cat 21, 2 months ago. So I have not created these numbers. I'm just logically showing you how these numbers work with actual cat problems. So he raised the price of the smallest and the medium cups by 6 rupees. So now the small cup, in this scenario, the small cup is 10 rupee, is costing 10 rupees. The medium cup is costing 16 rupees and the large cup is still costing 20 rupees. And the condition of the problem tells me that the product should now become 3200, and that condition is met at this point. 10 into 16 into 20 is actually 3200. And hence we have been able to identify the prices, we have been able to identify the value of x, the prices, original price of 4, 10 and 20, all the 3 cups, and you have avoided creating any equations here. So the question being asked here is, find the sum of the original prices of the 3 different sizes. 4 plus 10 plus 20, the sum is 34. End of the problem. And this is again another problem that you can actually finish off during your first reading of the problem, right? So in each of these sessions, I'm going to do around maybe 5 questions, right? So a couple of questions. Others says in CAT 21, I scored 91 percentile in quant section. I want to score 99 plus. So that, of course, you see the gap between the way you are thinking, the way I'm thinking here, and you fill those gaps. 91 percentile agar score kiya, so that means you must have barely solved 8-9 questions correctly. And I'm showing a situation where you can actually possibly solve all 20 questions, 22 questions of the CAT if within 40 minutes. 22 nahi bhi karo, 17-18 bhi kar lo, you will be in 99.9798 kind of percentile, close to 100. Let's look at the next one. Now this question says, a shopkeeper, and you will see that when you do these questions, you will see that what the exam is doing is giving you equations all the time and asking you to duel with the equations. Equation के साथ कुश्ती करके तुम answers निकाल के बताओ. That's what they are saying. And how good your numerical thinking is, how good your algebraic thinking is, both are critical inside this. So I have often seen engineers are for example, are very good at algebraic thinking, right? But you can see the previous question. If somebody went algebraic with the whole solution, it will take you 3-4 minutes more than the time, or maybe 2-3 minutes more than the time I took to do it, right? Because my solving was within the first reading. I got the answers to that question during my first reading because I did the algebra, I used the algebra where I needed to, I made the question easier for myself through the algebra, and then I put it to numbers, and I solved it numerically. And of course, when you're solving things numerically, your calculation skills also becomes important. And each of these sessions that I'm doing for CAT 21, and then I'll go back to CAT 20 and 19, you'll get the entire solutions on this channel. And in Hindi, you'll get it on the Arun Sharma Academy channel. Those of you who want to listen to me in Hindi, you can go there, head towards that. So you will realize that that most of these questions, में वो algebraic plus numerical का mix करोगे तो you are in good shape. So those of you who are trying to develop your quants, learn the algebra, and then try to learn the kida of creating numerical thinking within the algebraic solution. That's where a lot of engineers fail, and hence they are not able to solve more than 7, 8, 10, 12 questions in the exam because they take too much time to do it, and of course too much writing to do it. So let's look at this question, and I'll show you a similar process for this. A shop owner bought a total of 64 shirts from a wholesale market that came in 2 sizes, small and large. Okay, first reaction. First things first. There's the shopkeeper. What he has done? He has bought $64 shirts in 2 sizes, small and large. He's bought 64 shirts in 2 sizes, small and large. ठीक है? Okay. The price of a small shirt, now variable introduction, and that's one of the another difference between the top guys and people who are not so good at quants and mathematical thinking or basic numeracy thinking. If you're thinking about the CSAT exam, is you read stories. The top guys read variables. So when this question tells me the price of a small shirt was 50 rupees less than that of a large shirt, I'm thinking variables. Okay, यहाँ पे 2 वेरिएबल इंट्रोड्यूस हो गया क्वेश्चन में. एक हो गया नंबर ऑफ शर्ट्स. देयर इज अ ब्रेकडाउन ऑफ 64 बिटवीन स्मॉल एंड लार्ज शर्ट्स, एंड द सेकंड वेरिएबल दे आर इंट्रोड्यूसिंग is the price of the shirts, and they are telling me what is the price of the shirt of the larger shirt is. The smaller shirt costs 50 rupees less. So if I am using the algebra, this is what I am thinking. And the moment I think about, okay, there's a question in which they are talking to me about number of shirts sold and the price of the shirt sold, I'm immediately reacting, or I know without reading the question further, I know I can predict that the question will go into cost or the cost of purchase, because there's only one way in which these 2 variables interact with each other, and that's the multiplication. You cannot add them, you cannot divide them, you cannot subtract them. You can only multiply them. So there has to be a question, some direction inside the question about the cost of the purchase. So if you can read that before you read the question, you already know what you're expecting for. She paid a total of 5,000. So I have already predicted this based on this. She paid a total of 5,000 for the large shirts. So if I'm going algebra again, she paid a total of 5,000 for the large shirts. She paid a total of 5,000 for the large shirts. So if I'm going algebra, I'm getting, this is 5,000. And a total of 1,800 for the small shirts. I'm going algebra. this is 1800. Right, so I've got, again now, from the algebraic viewpoint, from the mathematical viewpoint, from the school maths viewpoint, your school teacher would have told you 2 equations, 2 unknowns, you better know how to solve them. You can get L, S, you can get P and P minus 50, you can get all the 4 values you want. But again, the writing of that is going to be prohibitive, because if you're solving this using the this thing, you also have the equation S plus L is 64. You also have this equation S plus, sorry, there are 3 unknowns here. How many unknowns? Yeah, S into P, L and P. So there are 3 unknowns. So the third equation is this. So you have to solve 3 equations, and solving 3 equations simultaneously is very tedious, as you know. And if you go algebraically, like most engineers do in these questions, you're going to get stuck badly at this point. So what is the exit route of this question? How do I come out of this question in 30 seconds? The 30-second outcome or getting out of this question in 30 seconds happens this way. They've asked, what have they asked me? They've asked me the price of a large shirt and a small shirt together. So that means they have asked me 2p minus 50. Right? They've asked me 2p minus 50. Because the price of the large shirt I've taken as P and the small shirt I've taken as P minus 50. So if 2p minus 50 is 150, it means P is 100 and P minus 50 is 50. So I can have 150, one possibility. If 2p minus 50 from the options, I'm trying to avoid writing the equations and solving this through equations. And 2p minus 50, and it's not an accident that they have given options here, and this is not a theta question, because you will see that whenever inside all good aptitude exams, whenever a question, if it becomes theta, options are removed, and that makes it overly mathematical, you will see that options are not removed there. So I don't believe that this is accidental, that this is not a theta question, but this is an option based question, because they want you, the question setter wants you to apply your intelligence to this. So 2p minus 50 is agar 200, so 2p is 250. So in this case, the prices of the 2 shirts are 125 and 75. Second value. इसमें मेरे को decimal values मिलेगा. इसमें मेरे को decimal values मिलेगा, because 2p is 225. इसमें भी decimal values मिलेगा, because 2p in this case will be 275. So for the time being, I'm not rejecting those as answers, but for the time being, I'm not going to pick up those as options. So I either pick up 50 and 100, or I pick up 125 and 75. And I say, okay, let me try to insert these numbers into the price. So let's see what happens if I insert the value of p as 100 and p minus 50 as 50. Now from this logic, if p is 100 and I have spent a total of 5,000 rupees on the larger shirts, the number of shirts I get here is 50. And if p is, the price of this is 50, the price of the smaller shirt is 50, and my total cost is 1800, the number of shirts I get is 36. And this does not match that the total shirts I bought is 64. So this is why my first option gets rejected within 15 seconds of picking it up. And then when you pick up the second option, you will see that it fits perfectly. Let's see that. So when I pick up the second option, where I've taken the larger shirt's price is 125 and the shorter, the smaller one is 25. If this price is 125, 125 by 5,000 gives me 40 large shirts, and this price is 75. 1800 by 75 gives me 24 small shirts. And of course, you need to be good with your calculations. That's a given. Do head over to the Arun Sharma Academy channel. उसमें मैंने हिंदी में